Hi, everybody. Welcome to the cottage. We get some shelter to keep us warm during the winter. Not a moment too soon. Our first guest today in the cottage is our old friend Arielle Scarcella, who is going to ask us to try and figure out whether some crazy kids on TikTok are narcissists or they're just so terribly dysphoric that they have no empathy for their own mother. But first, like the video if you enjoy this kind of thing, and subscribe to the channel to let the algorithm know that you want to see more of it. And, maybe share it somewhere because that would be fantastically cool. Thank you so much. Let's go see what Arielle has to say.
Supposed trans person filming their mother with cancer after she had her breasts removed, and then them saying that they're jealous.
Yeah, that's where we're starting here. Supposed trans person. How would you know?
First of all, your mom did not get top surgery, you entitled little shit. Your mom has cancer. She needed to get the cancer removed from her body. And in the same way that you might want your breasts removed, she didn't want her breasts removed. You should be understanding the pain that she's in, not being jealous of it. The level of narcissism here is at an all-time high. The fact that these people don't show any remorse or empathy for their own mother is disturbing, to say the least. It's sociopathic, honestly. And this isn't the only one like this I found on TikTok. There's at least 10 more.
Man, glad I'm not a fly on the wall while she's sitting around looking at those. Girl, I hope you have a glass of wine while you're doing that. Ooh.
I'm going to show you a few of them. Notice these people are always around the same age, all assigned, assumingly assigned female birth, all that were born female.
Right, Arielle definitely recognizes the importance of female biology, right? Because she is a lesbian. But more on that later. These are teenage girls. I live with two. I was one for almost a decade. All right. It's it can be intense, my girls do pretty good most of the time. I like to think that I usually had empathy as a teenager. But, the your frontal lobe is like closed for construction during that age. So your executive thinking and your planning and understanding of consequences and the passage of time and all that fun basic stuff is really just not all there at that age. And yeah, you talk yourself into some crazy shit.
They're always sassy and emotional and talk about how horrible their lives are.
Teenage girls.
The same tone inflection, always seem to have no sympathy for anybody else. Across cultures, by the way. Interesting, right? Clearly the cult of oppression has no boundaries.
Well, right, because that's internet culture. I feel like that's the obvious explanation for that, right?
Mother has officially gotten top surgery before me, and she's on HRT. Is it because she has breast cancer and had to have a mastectomy? Yes. And was that HRT estrogen or being menopausal? Also yes. But I just want one. I'm the trans one. I just want one thing.
There really is no end in sight with it.
No, she's the special one. Clearly with the most piercings, right, or something. I don't know. Oh my God.
This is there. It's always gonna be about me. It's always about me.
And now she's gonna sing. Love you, girl.
I will say that a few of the responses that I've seen to these videos on Twitter do mean well, but aren't exactly correct, right? Gender dysphoria is a very real mental illness or mental mismatch, whatever you want to.
No, it's a mental illness. Speaking as someone who used to have it, and I don't know exactly how distinct it is from narcissism. Even I can't say, because it really involves just a total rejection of material reality, right? And the hallmark of narcissism, it's the idea that everything is about you, right? The reasoning that you put behind that is really beside the point.
I personally don't think if somebody has legitimate gender dysphoria that should be considered cosmetic. For many trans people, including the ones that I know personally, it is considered a life or death type of surgery for them.
Girl, why? Suicide is voluntary. No one forces your hand to do that. If they do, it's murder, right? Okay. This infection used to be the leading cause of death for everyone. Forever. Okay. Until the invention of penicillin in the 20th century. Right. And, anesthetics are not much older than that. So for most of history, they didn't cut you open unless it was a dire emergency, because there was no way to keep you from feeling that. And people didn't understand what germs were. So they didn't wash their hands, they didn't wash the site, they didn't wash the tools. So even if you lived through the surgery, there was a really good chance that you were going to die in the next few days from the infection that you caught during the surgery when they cut you open. Okay. This idea that you need to cut open your perfectly healthy body to fix something that you don't like so much that you might just have to kill yourself. That's crazy. You need help, therapy. You need lots and lots of therapy, or at the very least, a lot of internal work. Okay, that is not, you just can't bend reality to your will to that extent.
Them, which is why so many of them commit suicide and self-harm. And I do think, of course, that extreme cases of gender dysphoria need to be taken seriously. But let's remember, gender dysphoria is in no way the same as extreme narcissism.
Is that true? Like I was saying, I'm not sure that's true. Because that can be absolutely the reasoning why the whole world needs to stop what it's doing. And they need to help you right now because you're in such pain. No. Okay. You need to practice being there for yourself. And you have to accept yourself in order to do that. It's being right at the beginning of the game of life and refusing to play. You're like, no, I didn't get the color card that I wanted, so I'm not playing.
Look at this.
No, let's not. Oh my God. I'm sorry. You're welcome. That one disturbs me. I can't watch it again.
True when they say hurt people. It's one of my favorite quotes. Now, in my opinion, either these kids are truly suffering this badly in more ways than one, right? Because I feel like only someone that is actually suffering this much would do something like this or say something like this about other people that are also suffering. Or they're sociopaths and narcissists. You decide.
Are those two things mutually exclusive? Again, I don't see any reason that they would be. It seems like people with extreme narcissism are terribly lonely and very confused about why they're so unhappy all the time. Because they knew what to do about it, they would do it, right? And they try to all the time. If you've ever known one, they are relentless, right? So I think dysphoria can absolutely be a symptom of, I don't know which one's a symptom of it. No, dysphoria is like the manifestation. That's the style. Thanks, phone. That's the style that, your mental illness has taken for whatever reason. But that's still what it is.
Right in the comments. I found this tweet next. It says, trans patients were called last week and informed that their long-awaited top surgery had been canceled to let more cancer mastectomies happen. It's not their responsibility, talking about the trans people. Our surgery is not cosmetic. Transgender wait times are fatal, and I #won't die waiting.
It's cosmetic because there's nothing wrong with you. All right? If your body functions just fine, and you want to cut it open anyway, that's the very definition of cosmetic. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Won't die waiting. Oh! Not if you don't do anything. Not doing something is fairly simple. Continuing to live is the most basic drive in life. That's the whole idea of living, trying to defeat death and entropy and everything that we consider evil because it's destructive of us, because we are constructive beings. We like making things. Occasionally we enjoy destroying things, but only so we can make something else or make ourselves feel better. Okay. So if you have lost the will to live to the point that you are seriously considering just ending it all, that's a problem, and you need help. You don't need surgery or painkillers.
And to this, I would say maybe instead of blaming women for, something that they cannot control, like having cancer, for having your top surgery being put off for a little while, you start putting blame on queer theory for taking over gendered medicine.
Whoa. I'm all for not blaming women for having cancer. Here. Yes, thank you, Arielle. But like, queer theory is the reason that there are so many doctors available to do this kind of thing. Queer theory is the reason that hospitals have apparently built entire new wings dedicated to this. There's whole new schools of medicine popping up because there are some wealthy people involved with this stuff. But that's why this is happening, okay? But queer theory is the way that they've sold this to people. That's the pamphlet that you get, basically. Sometimes literally. And gender medicine, that's like spirit medicine, okay? Which is called psychology.
Aaron Kimberly is a doctor I follow on Twitter who constantly talks about all this stuff, and I adore him. I suggest you go follow him. He tweeted this a few months back in reference to this. Something I've been afraid to say publicly. I used to be a clinician in trans medicine. I did hormone readiness assessments for youth until I read through the research and discovered the truth for myself. Queer theory has taken over gender medicine.
Right. That's redundant. Like, without queer theory, you wouldn't have gender medicine, because sexual health was already covered in science. So, yeah, I don't know what that is. I'm pretty sure Aaron Kimberly is a trans person themselves. For whatever that's worth. But what they have to say is fun.
I voiced my concerns about current practices in the trans community and was blacklisted and smeared. Youth and families are not being well supported by the informed consent model.
It's the same story over and over again. But cancel culture doesn't exist, right?
There is no safety net when we are lying to them about what gender dysphoria is.
A mental illness.
And when nobody even knows what gender dysphoria is, we literally have thousands of girls, this is really happening, I've made videos on this, thousands of young women, supposedly, maybe they are trans, some of them, but probably not most of them, claim.
But there is no way to tell, because it's not a real thing. If someone self-reports their level of distress, self-report surveys are notoriously unreliable. Okay. You can measure someone's antibodies if they have a disease, their level of infection. You can measure their inflammation. You can measure all kinds of stuff. That's what all those fancy gizmos in the hospital are for. Measuring different stuff about your body. They've come up with all kinds of amazing ways to do that now. But you still, psychology is more touchy-feely, okay? That's funny. No, it's metaphorically what that means. It's more nebulous, okay? It's harder to measure because all you can do is ask somebody, and people are freaking moody, right? Sometimes you're dreary and mopey and just borderline, I just need to get away from it all. I just want to be, a hole in the floor. And then, something else comes on the radio, or someone around you does something crazy or funny or stupid, or you just get distracted by something, and 10 minutes later you've completely forgotten about it, right? Yeah. So I just don't. And these people are jealous of their mother's cancer. We're doubting the idea that these people have some kind of mental disorder, because jealousy is not a physical problem.
Claiming that they need to have these surgeries and go on hormones when they're probably not actually experiencing gender dysphoria.
But you
Therefore,
wouldn't know.
those are the people that are pushing back the needs of actual transsexual people. Not with
Actual transsexual people. And who are they? How do you find them? How do you test for that? Because obviously you can't just ask people. She's about to make the argument and support herself with a bunch of sort of random numbers to say that a bunch of just not trans people are claiming to be trans. So you can't just ask people.
women that have cancer. Stop. There are not that many people who are actually trans. There are already thousands upon thousands of videos, blogs, direct messages that I get, tweets that are from people documenting their detransition, recognizing that they in fact made a mistake. 90% of those people are female. Here's one of them.
That's kind of weird, right? So like if you detransition, you were never truly trans, obviously. Regardless of how far through the process you went, regardless of how long you lived that way, changing your mind is the only tell. Well, that sounds extremely unfortunate and dangerous.
Dr. Kimberly said, I had some girls in my practice leave my office excited to go back to being girls. It hadn't occurred to them that there are different types of girls. I didn't do conversion therapy. I provided honest education and a loving support for who they are. It was their free choice.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Look at her. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I can't. There are different kinds of girls. Yeah, there are. And that sounds just blindingly obvious, right? Again, teenage boys are crazy too. Being a teenager is just mind-bending, right? We all remember that, right? We don't like to talk about it. Hell, I still don't like to go anywhere near high schools at all, because they're just, abominable places to me to this day. But I do anyway, because I'm not going to let the past control my present like that, to be a little dramatic about it. And just practicality demands, okay? And practicality demands that these people accept, to some extent, the fact that material reality has a large effect on them. Ooh, because otherwise you wouldn't be experiencing anything at all. It's the dualism, right? Where you are a spirit in a meat sack, right? And but it is not that simple. And dysphoria is completely unmeasurable. So basing your entire argument, your entire worldview on something that is imaginary, well, that's called faith. And I just don't understand Arielle's level of faith.
Yes, I don't understand why this is so difficult for some people these days. This guy's great. The activists who are pushing for the informed consent model are being selfish at the expense of vulnerable kids, mostly girls.
Oh my God. Accusing the powers that be of being greedy at the expense of young girls. Oh, shocking. No wonder this person got blacklisted.
Mostly young girls, mostly teenage girls, mostly white teenage girls. It was this way when it was like the goth scene and the emo scene, and now it's the queer and trans scene. So it's the same thing. And
social
one of the most annoying things about this for me is these supposed queer and trans kids who are actually not queer and trans.
But how do you know?
The majority of the LGBT community. The majority of these people do not have same-sex relationships or same-sex attraction.
See, that is actually observable in material reality. Mm-hmm. Your trans identity is not. Your non-binary identity certainly is not. They love this thing now where they're all stealth, right? you aren't supposed to be able to clock them, whether it's the most femmiest of trans women or the most, teed up trans man or a dude in a skirt with a beard. You don't know what they are. You're supposed to, I guess, just walk up and instead of saying, hi, my name is blah, you're supposed to say, hi, what are your pronouns? To everyone, though. To everyone. Because they don't have to work to present in any particular way whatsoever. Which I think they're the first religious sect to claim that privilege, right? Usually they have some kind of fancy hat at least.
And do not actually have gender dysphoria. New study came
How do you
out
know?
of Arizona Christian University. 39% of 18 to 24-year-olds now identify as LGBTQ. But listen
Wow,
to this.
that's a
This
lot.
makes a lot of sense. The majority admit to often feeling anxious, depressed, or fearful. 3 out of 4 millennials said that they are still searching for their purpose in life.
Okay, there are like a lot of explanations for that, but that's a whole, at least one other video unto itself. Real quick, I just want to point out that like most millennials are older than that. Arguably 18 to 24-year-olds are like cusp babies, maybe at best, right? They're young millennials and old Gen Zers, right? So arguably these two things are not even about the same group of people.
22% of millennials contend that life is sacred, while half of the generation, 50% of millennials, argue that life is what you make it and there's absolutely no value associated with human life.
Wait a minute. Check that out. There is no absolute value. Those are two very different things, Arielle. Come on. What are you doing? No absolute value, which means that, it's not inherent. It isn't just there. You have to sort of create value, which, I don't know, sounds pretty market friendly when you think about it.
We're wondering how we got to this point. This is why. The proportion of young adults who now identify as LGBTQ, which
Way to blame the victim there, hon. 30% of it are LGBTQ. First of all, when you keep expanding the umbrella, yes, more and more people are going to fall underneath it. Secondly, like my married sister counts herself as under this umbrella because she's polyamorous, because like, I don't know, they had an open marriage at one point, I guess. Her first husband, they did. I don't know all the details, but like, I don't know, if you're a married straight white lady, like traditionally you don't get to claim that, right? Because you like to step out a little bit. I don't want to tell people what to do. I don't care. If that's how you want to run your life, more power to you. If it works for you and you're happy and he's happy and they're happy, it's great. I don't care. It doesn't affect me unless you want to, try and involve me, which pass. But that doesn't count as the rainbow umbrella. I don't know. I really think it's pushing it. And the more, I did not want to believe that. But I keep encountering it more and more. That queer can mean basically whatever you want.
which is 30% or 39%, 18 to 24-year-olds now, is roughly 3 times the proportion, the combined amount of older adults of the entire nation. Think about that. Clearly, there's a lot of mental health issues going on here, a lot of emotional health, a lot of
Arielle, you're not implying that being gay is a mental health issue, are you?
spiritual journey that needs to happen, self-love and self-esteem, lessons that need to be learned. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think more people are actually LGBT than ever before? Or do you think this is what I think, and it's a mental health crisis, identity crisis, a whole bunch of other stuff? Let me know in the comments. I will see you guys back.
Okay, so I want to say for my vote, it's clearly an identity mental health crisis of some kind. But nobody wants to really look into it from that angle, and instead we have a proliferation of gender clinics, which, I don't know, almost lends credence to my theory. But Yeah, this is already getting a little long. Thank you so much for sticking with me through Arielle's very dense little video there, right? She does that. She just boom, 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 boom. Will hit you in quick succession with some stuff. You know, it's that same style that I hate, that a lot of people seem to have with the I mean, I don't know. Is how rehearsed is what she's saying? I don't know. It's hard to tell. But she's talking really fast, and the edits are really, quick, and that's going to be probably my next upgrade, to be able to edit it all. Woohoo! Yay! Like the video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see that coming up. But narcissism versus dysphoria, right? I don't know. Are all of those young girls who suffering from the rapid onset gender dysphoria, are they just suddenly becoming narcissistic? I don't think so. I think, it's like a runny nose. It can have various causes. Several, or like, being sick to your stomach. Several things, many things can cause that, right? It can be a symptom of everything from, having eaten some sour grapes to cancer, right? Like everything. There are some symptoms that are like that. You go to your doctor and you tell them you have these symptoms. They're like, okay, well, that could be literally anything. And I don't know. It's being uncomfortable with your physical form is really, 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 really common, because physical embodiment is a pain in the ass, right? And if not for it, you wouldn't have an ass to have the pain in. Okay? So every little ache and pain that we have physically, it sucks, right? And mentally, you're not some perfect ethereal spirit that you can imagine yourself to be. Okay, you are just as full of flaws and foibles in your mind, because your mind is a manifestation of your body, not the other way around. That doorway, once open, you can walk through in either direction. Obviously, the mind affects the body to a large extent, and that's maybe something we should look into a little more in modern medicine. However, you can't just decide to change sex, and even if you could, that would not defeat the idea of there being two different sexes, because otherwise you wouldn't have to change it. The whole thing is self-defeating. It's very base. And Arielle brings up so much good stuff, so many provocative thoughts and points of discussion, and then runs off into the weeds away from them. And you're like, But thank you, as always, so much for joining me in poking fun at her and discussing some of this stuff. And welcome to, our new home for the winter. We're going to be in the cottage until springtime. Oh my gosh, I can't wait. And I will see y'all next time. I'm going to go find some more stuff to bitch about. Bye.